It hangs ever so majestically from the bark of its divine tree, containing beans that once provided food for the Aztec gods and financial rescue to European planters eking a living from impoverished labor on West Indian soils. Its roller coaster history has borne witness to periods of unprecedented prosperity, with moments of absolute despair and financial chaos. A story scientifically fermented in the womb of this magnificent pod that nurtures a centuries-old secret told and another waiting to unfurl in the continuing story of cocoa production in Trinidad and Tobago. The history of cocoa in Trinidad and Tobago is linked to Columbus's voyage here in 1498 and the subsequent migrations that would follow. First, it was the Spaniards who occupied the island for 300 years, introducing the Criollo cocoa or cacao in 1525. The Criollo plantings would later fall victim to various forms of pathological tragedy that would bring the fledgling industry to near collapse.
It was such a severe devastation that the Spaniards had to decide to look outside of Trinidad for new planting material to reintroduce into Trinidad and Tobago so that they could replace what was lost.
Then came the Venezuelans in 1757 with a sturdier variety, the Forastero.
They didn't really recapture the market as it had been in the heydays of the Criollo, but it did improve the prospect for cocoa production in Trinidad.
This meeting on common Trinidad soil of the remnant Criollo population and its Amazonian counterpart would give birth to an aristocratic mixture known as the Trinitario, an indigenous hybrid that would fuse possibility and opportunity.
It exhibited a lot of superior characteristics, including superior vigor to the original Criollo plantings and resistance to some diseases.
Trinitario trees would soon embellish the landscape, offering the planters an additional option in crop culture and a niche market in the cocoa trade.
The quality of the bean became very well known, and very soon there was a great demand for this Trinitario cocoa.
This native marvel would place Trinidad and Tobago on the global pedestal of fine or flavor cocoa that fill the senses of cocoa and chocolate lovers around the world, invigorating its power to gladden mortal hearts. It was not until the beginning of the 18th century, when prices were extremely high, that the cocoa trade began in earnest. By 1830, Trinidad and Tobago was the world's third highest producer after Venezuela and Ecuador. Between 1866 and 1920, world demand increased, and with prices remaining stable and attractive, cocoa would earn its royal crown.
That was the time when cocoa production was at its highest level, when the sale of cocoa brought a lot of prosperity to the cocoa farmers in Trinidad and Tobago.
Like cocoa, the history of Trinidad and Tobago would be as colorful as the pods that hang from these trees. A twin island nation that rises from the archipelago in the Caribbean Sea, nestled on the eastern edge of Venezuela with a multispectral blend of people whose roots have sprung from all continents. Europe, that opened up its frontiers. Africa, that supplied labor under the harshest human conditions of slavery. India, that rescued the economy with workers indentured to the plantations. Their indomitable spirit, merging with the fertile soils, would give to the world the best flavor through the age of discovery that brought with it golden estates of cocoa to an era when sugar was king, into industrialization and exploitation of petroleum, and now globalization when its cocoa competes to reassert its identity on the world stage. For more than 400 years, cocoa has seeded the development of Trinidad and Tobago. It would pump wealth into the coffers of plantation owners. Magnificent Victorian bungalows would spring up as visual evidence of the cocoa bounty in Trinidad during the period of colonization.
And the pattern that was followed was similar to that of the sugar. You know, you are making money, you have a crop for export, you get an initial payment, and then when the crop is sold, you expected a larger sum. So your whole orientation was based on the same consumption patterns as a sugar planter, heavy importation of fine foods and so on.
A social backbone spanning the era from the rich plantocracy to the freed slaves, Indian indentured laborers and the Spanish peons or cocoa payols, who moved from place to place, planting their cocoa trees and lending cultural vibrancy to Trinidad and Tobago's multi-ethnic society. In this regard, cocoa is inextricably bound to the fabric of Trinidad and Tobago's economic and social history. As the island was giving to the world its precious variety of cocoa beans, its musicians were unknowingly creating another food of love, the steel pan, the only musical invention of the 20th century. Distinctively opposite genres of creativity, but tastes that would secure for Trinidad and Tobago a place in prestigious halls of fame, one for chocolate, the other for its pulsating music, and both as Trini as Trinitario. The bean's potential continued to gestate in the rich soil, awaiting the entrepreneur with vision and energy to nourish it to life and take it to a higher level where dark chocolate factories or houses in far-off lands would be as Trinbagonian as bake and shark in Maracas, crab and dumplings in Tobago, and doubles and roti in the plains of Caroni, complemented by a hot cup of freshly brewed Trinitario chocolate tea.
If you go to Hershey's, you'll see the Trinidad bin is marked Trinidad, and it's because they buy Trinidad cocoa and they use it to enhance the flavor of that. And I think that is something we should try to recapture.
The island's topography, its sea-kissed beaches, sprawling plains, hills-covered green tropical forests, and chocolate soils are ideal conditions for the production of the best quality cocoa. In fact, yields from shaded hills have the potential to produce almost 1 ton of the world's finest cocoa per hectare from Trinidad's selected hybrids, bred for over 60 years by the Cocoa Research Section of the Ministry of Agriculture.
These varieties are characterized by a high yielding capacity, over maybe 1,000 kilograms per hectare. They have large beans, low pod index. They have good resistance to pests and diseases. And of course, not forgetting they possess the fine flavor characteristic.
Over the years, this section has been conducting research on various pertinent issues, from disease resistance and crop yields to plant propagation and new varieties. Field officers from the CRS share their practical knowledge and expertise with farmers across the country.
We arrange field days and so on, and we get farmers and they come out and they interact, they participate, they learn from each other, they learn from us, we learn from them. So at the end of the day, there is this rich benefit for everyone concerned.
Well, this gentleman does make me feel nice. Sometimes he come and he tell me, cocoa coming back. Yeah.
Here at Vancouver, George Bernard is excited about the results of research on his 100-plus acre estate and sings the praises of the work being done by the research team.
They have been extremely cooperative, fully. I have only admiration for them. They work very hard, they're very, very well informed and helpful.
Similar work is being carried out at the Cocoa Research Unit of the University of the West Indies, custodian of the world-famous International Cocoa Gene Bank.
It houses the world's largest and most diverse collection of cacao germplasm, and it is recognized as a universal collection, and it is one of two. The other is held in Costa Rica.
At the CRU, highly skilled researchers and technicians safeguard the variability of the cocoa gene pool to serve the global needs of cocoa breeding programs.
We do morphological characterization and biochemical characterization, looking at the actual genome of the plants, the types. And then we screen the types that we have identified properly for traits of agronomic importance, that is yield, disease resistance, butterfat, flavor.
Concomitantly, the preservation and resuscitation initiatives are enthusiastically supported by the Cocoa and Coffee Industry Board of Trinidad and Tobago, that works closely with all stakeholders to maintain quality standards and ensure sustainability.
We have engaged extension officers who are there to guide the farmers. We have recently licensed fermentary operators as we seek to ensure that we maintain that high quality. We increased the price that we are offering to the farmers.
The Agricultural Development Bank is another state agency playing a crucial role in revitalizing cocoa production.
Our initial desire was simply to get some farmers to become involved in improved agronomic practices. But we developed 3 subsets, as I would say, of this loan package. One for improved agronomic practice, the other for rehabilitation, and the third for new cultivation.
But among the early success stories would be the French sugar planter Charles Joseph Lopineau, who arrived in Trinidad in 1800, convinced that the island was suitable also for cocoa production. His legacy is this Lopineau estate that has become a vibrant ecotourism site and symbol of the promise of cocoa for economic prosperity. It is in this Lopineau Valley that parang music gave exuberance to the local cocoa story, with a practice that is as old as the industry. Dancing the cocoa is an ancient washing technique that lives even today.
Come and dance the cocoa. Come and dance the cocoa.
For the latter part of the 20th century, cocoa production in Trinidad and Tobago has been involuntarily restricted to a family affair, with labor shortages seriously hampering the industry as young people sought better paying jobs. One young farmer who has weathered the proverbial storm is Lincoln Solandi, who inherited from his father a small Trinitario plantation, sacrificing his education in favor of fine flavor.
The work is very hard, but you have to put your mind to it. You know, you take the little courses and so on in it.
Lincoln's bloodline is traced to North Indian villages, from where indentured immigrants were mostly recruited to the sugar plantations of Trinidad. Some were specifically deployed to cocoa estates on the island's central range. Vestiges of the Indian presence remain part of the early history of this sprawling cocoa plantation, where time-tested manual characteristics coexist with partial mechanization. Whilst most of Trinidad and Tobago's cocoa is sold as beans to foreign exotic chocolate manufacturers, byproducts would increasingly emerge as local entrepreneurs speculate with added value resident in the bean. One manufacturer is making cocoa butter. Another is producing cocoa-based soaps. A third makes baked cocoa pods for chocolate tea. In significant ways, cocoa is facilitating the development of micro-industry.
We not only have an advantage of producing very high quality cocoa beans, we have an advantage of an economy that could invest in the production of chocolates.
In the Sister Isle, the Tobago Cocoa Estate, planted exclusively with Trinidad selected hybrids, is a heritage park that educates visitors about the history of cocoa on the island. They also participate in the fermenting and drying activities. It is through the collective efforts of cocoa farmers, the work of the Cocoa Research Section of the Ministry, the UWI's Cocoa Research Unit, vigilance of the Cocoa and Coffee Industry Board, lucrative overseas markets, and the support of the government that cocoa in Trinidad and Tobago will recapture its royal crown. World-class varieties like Trinitario and Trinidad selected hybrids formed the nucleus that would breed into the cocoa industry a new life, unto the super global journey upon which it embarked 400 years ago from the fields of these pan-playing islands. Its re-emergence is timely as the world races to reinforce the benefits of sustainability in this era of global economic and social challenges.